What is going on, YouTube? It is your boy JC 17 and 18 out here with the latest Black Ops 3 gameplay. And you know, I started this commentary series, you know, it's my second video for it. And I want to touch on the subject about basketball, NBA basketball as a matter of fact, comparing eras from back then to now. How much has basketball changed? How much competition has changed? How much has the game in general changed? So let's get to it. Basketball right now is harder to play than basketball back then. And I'm just saying that because the game now has turned so differently from what it was back then. Back then, there was no such thing as a crossover, you know, crazy behind the back dribbles, scoop layups, you know. Yeah, there were scoop layups, but not crazy handles, you know. Today, it's so hard to stay in front of a point guard because pretty much every single point guard in the NBA today can dunk the basketball. They can all dunk the basketball. And that's a scary sight when a 6'2", 6'3" guy is dunking the ball on your ass. Also, how has the game style changed from previous years? Well, as you can see now, basketball has turned into a three-point shootout, with teams like the Golden State Warriors starting that shootout out, man. I think it's still hilarious the fact that a team, the greatest team in NBA history, blows a 3-1 lead and then decide to get the fucking MVP. Probably one of the greatest scoring small forwards of all time, if not the greatest scoring small forward of all time, in his prime, with an MVP. You know, I still think what Kevin Durant did is the weakest move in NBA history. But that's just my opinion, you know. You guys who are Warriors fans, you might respect this decision, whatever. But that's just me, you know. It's like you're getting beat up by a bunch of bullies, and the next day you join those bullies to beat up another kid. That's fucking hilarious, right? If you can't beat them, join them. That's what KD just taught me in life. If you can't beat something, just join it, right? But anyways, back to the subject. How different is basketball today to basketball back then, besides the three-point shootout? Defenses are so much better today than they were back then. You know, with zone defense being invented, you know, back then it was just man-to-man coverage, you know, and back then it was more, the game was more physical though, you know. Used to be a lot of fights in games. People used to get away with illegal screens, hedges, when every time you cut, you know, you get hit by somebody, elbowed in the face and shit like that, you know, technical foul suspensions and shit like that, you know. I still think the game is harder to play right now than it was back then, just for the fact that the average basketball player right now is like 6'7" in the NBA, you know, that's the average shit. Back then, guys were shorter though, you know, and those guys who were taller used to shine. And I'm not gonna disrespect his greatness, but let's say a guy like Wilt Chamberlain, you know, do you really think that Wilt is still probably one of the greatest scorers in NBA history? The only guy to ever dropped 100 points in an NBA game will be that great in today's era. I'm not trying to disrespect Will at all, but I don't see him being that great. You know, he'll probably be average, but come on now. Will was never able to shoot free throws. Will played in the league where there was like 9 teams at the time. There's 30 teams in the NBA, so you really think he will be able to grind that out? See, as the seasons go by now, it is so hard for basketball players to stay healthy. You know, there's so many games in the season. Why do you think people will rest? There's just way too many games, you know. It's an 82 game season. That's a lot of grind, man. People think being in the NBA it's easy. It's really not. You fucking have to be in a plane most of the time, flying from city to city, which really sucks ass. You know, being on a plane has to be boring. And imagine being on a plane every fucking day of your life for a whole year, right? I mean, either of those guys pretty much have fun, but they're pretty much tired. Come on, some of these guys be taking, some NBA teams, you know, after a game, after an away game, they get on the plane, they get on the car, the team bus, drive back to the airport, then it's back to the next city or back home. So imagine going on a road trip playing games. You know, that shit is not easy, and people think it's really easy. It's not, man. See, back then there were that many teams, so shit was pretty much easier. Now, let's get down to injuries. You know, I feel like basketball players now get injured more than they did back then. Just the fact that the game has changed. You know, there's more athleticism to it than it is skill. You know, back then it was pretty much skill and toughness. As in the game right now is like athleticism, you know, obviously skill and like shit, luckiness, because there are so many basketball players in the world, and these NBA players, those who play in the NBA are fucking lucky as hell, man, because a lot of people want their spots. But anyways, let's talk about pretty much the rules now compared to back then. You know, back then there used to be a lot of fucking fights and shit. Now there's not that many fights. You don't see guys throwing punches anymore. As a matter of fact, the only fight recently that I saw where a guy threw a punch was when Ibaka and Robin Lopez got into it in an altercation when the Bulls, I think, played the Toronto Raptors at Air Canada Century, whatever the fuck you pronounce that shit, because I know it's not center, it's center, something like that. But anyways, yeah, that was the only like fight that I saw. Basketball players today, you know, if you get into a fight and they get a technical foul, ejected, you already know they're getting fined big by the NBA. You know, the NBA does anything in today's era to fucking milk players, you know, so that's why you have to pay for everything. That's why NBA gear is expensive as shit, because the NBA is pretty much a marketing. You know, I mean, it was a marketing back then, but still, back then it was different, you know, it was way more different, you know. For example, like NBA players today, they get along. A lot of NBA players get along, and now they're teaming up and shit. And, you know, back then you didn't see none of that bullshit, you know. How the fuck, why would you want to team up with a guy who just beat you? Cuff Kevin Durant. Yeah. Why would you want to team up with a team, you know? So, yeah, back then people used to have hate for each other. For example, the Detroit Pistons used to be hated by pretty much every single fucking NBA franchise back then. Nobody liked their asses. As of now, you know, guys get along with Golden State Warriors players, you know, like, that's really bullshit. Like, guys like, oh, your team sucks, but hey, bro, we're bros, we're cool. Come on, you should join us next year. And it's fucking hilarious. So, the NBA game has changed, not just as in style of play, but like an attitude in general. Like, who the fuck wants to join the team that beat you? Nobody, right? Guys are forming super teams, and people are blaming LeBron James for this. It's hilarious because one of the first teams to ever be a super team were the fucking, what's it called? Not the LA Lakers. Fuck. I forgot. Oh yeah, the Boston Celtics. You know, they traded for Kevin Garnett. They got Ray Allen, then they got a young Rondo. Yes, they landed. You have Paul Pierce in his prime. Come on, that's a big four right there. What the fuck do you think LeBron James left for the Heat? And then LeBron James was kicking Kevin Durant's ass in the NBA until obviously Durant had to join the team that beat his ass in the finals, in the conference finals. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron James fucking joins up with like the Houston Rockets and Carmelo Anthony joins up with the Houston Rockets, and you have Harden. Also, Dwayne Wade gets bought out and he goes to the Houston Rockets, and you have Harden at point guard, D Wade at shooting guard, Melo at small forward, power forward, LeBron James, and then center, I don't know, you have D Wade coming off the bench, then you have fucking CP3 starting, you know, I forgot about CP3, he plays for the Rockets. But anyways, the NBA game has changed, man. Shit is not the same, and you know, I don't like where the NBA is heading.